Hey folks, Zach Osterman here. I'm Insider Indianapolis Star. This is the last word from Indiana 14, Louisville 21. Hoosiers lose today at Lucas Oil Stadium. As we discussed in the Insider video that's posted on indystar.com/sports, very much a tale of two halves. Louisville dominant in that first half. Indiana very much the sort of controlling force of the game in the second half. Hoosiers have that late drive. About 4.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Tayven Jackson lunges for the pylon. He's adjudged on review to be down at, I think the referee called it the 1.5 foot line. Indiana goes for it on fourth down, can't punch it in on kind of a slow developing tailback dive play behind or to Josh Henderson. A frustrating loss for Indiana. I think, the bad is certainly that first half's the worst half of football Indiana's played. Defensively and in some ways offensively this season, not necessarily as unproductive as the game against Ohio State, but just a half that felt a little too scattered, a little too unfocused. And maybe it's easy to say that that's expected or should be expected with a redshirt freshman quarterback. The flip side is I think you could look at a coaching staff and say if you know you have a quarterback you're going to need to grow into the game a little bit, then you need to sort of ensure that he's got a smooth landing, sort of a smooth runway to land on, so to speak. And Indiana just couldn't quite find anything offensively in that first half. I mean, in a game where, listen, it transpires that if Indiana, can even find the end zone one time in that first half, perhaps the second half unfolds differently. But the flip side is I thought Tom Allen had some good coaching moments. The onside kick being a really good example of that, the defensive adjustments that were made between him and Matt Guerrieri and Indiana's offensive staff, which held Louisville had 306 total yards of offense in the first half I'm looking at the book while we talk about this, 306 total yards of offense in the first half of Saturday's game, only 116 total yards of offense in the second half. And this is, realistically, probably one of the 3 or 4 best offenses Indiana's going to see all year. We'll see. Time will tell what Louisville is as a team. But if that group stays healthy, this is going to be one of the 3 or 4 best offenses, at least, in Indiana sees all year. And so you can understand maybe having a couple rough moments against it, but to adjust and to be so dominant over it in that second half is encouraging. And then, of course, there's Jackson, 24 of 34, 299 yards, a touchdown. He did throw a pick. That was kind of a little bit on him, a little bit on the receiver. It hit DeQuise Carter in the hands. Just one of those where Jackson would probably tell you he should have thrown a more accurate pass. Carter would probably tell you he should have caught it anyway. But you had to like the poise, the feel, just how kind of commanding Jackson's presence was as a quarterback, even in what's, his second college start, maybe his first true start as the starter, obviously. 8 different receivers caught a pass, or at least were targeted. I think 9 different receivers were targeted and 8 caught a pass. So it wasn't like he necessarily just lasered in on one player or anything like that. Jalen Lucas had 127 yards on 18 touches with a touchdown today. Indiana got him much more involved in the passing game than we've seen before. There's stuff to build on here is kind of my point. And, the final sort of question my post-game insider raised is essentially what will this game look like at the end of the season? Will it be Maryland in 2017, the sort of game where Indiana comes up 1 score shy, and we get to the Saturday after Thanksgiving and say, Indiana really would wish they had that game in their back pocket, wish they could have found a way to win that? Or will it be more like Michigan State in 2019, where Indiana went up to East Lansing, played a great game, came up just short of upsetting Michigan State, but that performance proved to be a bit of a sort of launching pad for Indiana to obviously go on and win 8 games that year. The confidence Indiana took out of that game, some of what Indiana showed as a team, and obviously how well its quarterback, Michael Penix, that day played. It does feel like this game has the potential to kind of be, either of those sort of outcomes in terms of what this means to the larger course of Indiana's season. But I think if you're Indiana as a fan, as a player, as a coach, whatever today, you're allowed to, I think, feel, some frustration just with the fact that if you start a little quicker or you finish one more drive or, that just you wipe 1 or 2 mistakes off the board, there's a decent chance that at very least you're playing this game in overtime and maybe you find a way to win it. And Indiana just, as we're talking about many times, Indiana can't afford to lose too many of these sort of potential coin toss games in terms of, where the line is. I think Louisville was kind of 9-10 point favorite, but also in terms of, games where you feel like there are ways in which you can sort of dictate the terms of those games to your opponent. And Indiana did that for long stretches of the second half, to its credit, but obviously came up short. And I think in particular, obviously the offense has got to sort of find ways to run the ball a little better and keep bringing Tayven Jackson along. The defense has probably got to answer some questions about just all the explosive plays allowed. Indiana was one of the best teams in the country at limiting explosive plays for the first 2 weeks of the season. And they got hit for, I think 5 passes of at least 12 yards today. That's not necessarily an explosive, but that's, those are some big chunk plays. Obviously, the Jamari Thrash 85-yard touchdown. He had 80 total yards after catch. He also had that long catch on the Louisville drive that ended in the missed field goal. 3 runs of at least 10 yards, 2 of at least 25 yards today. I think there were actually maybe a couple more in there. But the point is, Indiana's got to – there's a lot of good I think Indiana can harvest from a game like this, but Indiana's got to move forward with what failed the Hoosiers today pretty quickly, because they got Akron next week in a game they can't afford to lose, obviously, and then it's Maryland, Michigan, Rutgers, and so that becomes a bit of a proving ground stretch for your season. So Hoosiers are 1-2. They're still 0-1 in the Big Ten and will be for at least one more week. They have Akron next Friday night at 7:30 at home. Between now and then, for the Indianapolis Star, I'm Zach Osterman. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to hit like and subscribe if you want to see more of these videos as we get deeper into the season. We'll do, I would say, at least 2 to 3 a week, just kind of news dependent, especially once we get kind of into the football-basketball crossover, which is coming up fast here. So, again, like and subscribe, and we'll keep bringing these to you, and thank you for watching.